Right, we'll just crack on with it because we obviously all want to talk about Sunday's game. It was Saturday, but now it's been moved to Sunday. We might as well just kind of get right into it in terms of the team selection because clearly that's what everybody seems to be chatting about at the moment. We'll start from front and we'll kind of move backwards. I think it's kind of fair to say that we all expect Ryan Kent and Alfredo to start, but who would you like to see start on the right-hand side? We'll start off with you, Greg, and then we'll just move through the guys.
Personally, for me, I would like to see Aribo in the front three. I think that's his best position. For me, he seems to be kind of more influential, kind of affects the team defenders with his pace and the way he kind of nicks in the wee pockets. When he kind of, I know we're going to speak about it, when he drops back, it's like not a player missing in the midfield, but it's not the kind of same intensity. Do you know what I mean? I think the last couple of Old Firm games, they've probably got the better of the midfield. So I think he's maybe not suited in that position. I think as a attacking threat, he would be better definitely going forward for us.
Right, Wilf, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm with Greg. I would have Joe Aribo as the third forward. Although I know Cammy put a poll up on Twitter, although I'm not back on social media for another hour because I've taken a week off in solidarity with the players. But I saw from the group chat that we had a poll, and I said the correct answer was Kemar Roof, and it is Kemar Roof because I think he'll play. I think Gerrard will play Joe Aribo in midfield.
Right.
Personally, I'd push him forward into the attacking three, and I'd play Scotty Arfield in the midfield.
Right, Ross, what about yourself, mate?
I'd go Hadji.
Right, okay.
I would go Hadji for just I spoke about it the other day, his ability to drop a shoulder and go both feet, both ways. I think if you've got him on one side, Kent on the other, the two of them being so two-footed, being able to switch and drift, and obviously we've got Buff who likes to move about and drag defenders. I think it makes sense to have the two-footed boys that can go in, and Hadji's ability to find a pass as well. I'm going to say later on, I would play Arfield in the midfield three, and I think with Hadji taking the ball in and having the guile to get wee balls through for Arfield's late runs when Morelos is pulling folk about, that's the guy I would play in there. But I think Gerrard will go with Roof.
Yeah, I think he'll go with Roof as well. And I just think it's because he's basically another striker playing on that right-hand side, so he gets himself into the box that often that he's obviously a danger. And I think one of the things that when you're playing against, you want to try and get them on the back foot. And also one of the bigger things that we can do exceedingly well in games against is counter-attack on them as well when we have to. So if you've got the pace of Kent and Roof down the side of the park, and Buffalo's already high up the pitch anyway at that point, I think it just gives you that extra option. Right, we'll move on to the midfield three then. I think obviously you guys have already touched on it. I take it we're talking about Stephen Davis and Glenn Kamara, they start. I think that's a given. So it's just that extra position. Who are we putting in there? Is it Scott Arfield? Is it Joe Aribo? Or is it somebody maybe for left field that could possibly slot in there to give us that third body? I'll come to you first, Wilf.
As I said, I would go Scott Arfield. I think he'll play Aribo in there, and he'll put Roof up front as we've just been talking about. But for me, it would be Scotty Arfield. He loves these games, and I'd love him to sort out the Lego muncher in his final kind of competitive crack at us that matters.
Ross, what about yourself, mate?
Just thinking there, mate. I don't know whether Arfield if he plays a three, but I think he might go a swerve ball and play. I think he might actually go 4-2-3-1, the same as he has done some games. And I think you might find there Davis and Kamara will sit and he'll play Aribo in behind the front ones. But if he's playing the 4-3-3 standard, I would have Arfield in there for, as I say, when Buff drops back and Hadji's on possession of the ball, Arfield is the only one we've got that runs beyond.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point, mate, because at the end of the day, this is a one-off game. It's not like it's a league game. You know, the league games always have a different kind of mentality to them because especially the first kind of one or two games, you don't want to give away too much, you don't want to lose it. You're quite happy sometimes to take the point away from home.
Yep.
But in this game, it's a one-off tie. There's no replay. So like both teams kind of need to be seen to be going to try and win the game. So I mean, that's something that I thought about as well. It would be interesting to see if he maybe used Hadji as a proper 10 and then played Roof on the right Kent and Morelos, but is that then like overkill because then Celtic could outman us in the middle of the pitch? So I suppose these are all the things that the manager and the coaching staff need to look at clearly. But Greg, what about yourself, mate? Do you think it's just a straightforward choice for Scott Arfield, or do you think that Joe Aribo slots into that midfield?
Yeah, I think personally I would go with Arfield as well. I think in these type of games he's been excellent, and he just kind of adds that extra guile. I think, as I said, touched on before, they've kind of not got the better of the midfield, but they won a lot of second balls for me. The last time they came to Ibrox, so I think somebody like Arfield kind of picks their pockets and is committed, and then if he does go forward, as Ross was saying, like he can get in behind Morelos and Kent and stuff as well, with Davis and Kamara sitting, because at 9 times out of 10 you've seen Davis is the one that is kind of in the centre half position for Rangers, kind of clearing up, so it kind of allows Arfield to kind of push on. But I think Gerrard will play Aribo in there. It's frustrating because sometimes you have yourselves, you see Aribo now and again kind of track back into these positions, and they can carry the ball a long way, so I don't know why. You hope Gerrard, that's something he can bring into his game, because he's definitely can pick the ball up deep and get Rangers away up the park, so you hopefully that's the kind of maybe utilise that. But I think that's what Gerrard will go with. I think he'll play Aribo in the middle.
Yeah, I think Aribo, I mean, he's obviously had some criticism in the midfield because some people believe that he doesn't track enough in terms of like the defensive side of the game. And obviously, like the way that Celtic could potentially set up, it's guys like Turnbull that you need to watch who are making these runs. So it's important that Aribo follows their runners, because if not, you can then get overloaded. And I think that's why like a lot of people will pick Scotty in the middle three, because they know that he'll track the guy, he'll work hard, he'll commit to the midfield three. And so I think that's why a lot of people would pick Finn. But I agree, I think he might play Aribo in the three. I think if he is going to go with three, then he's going to play him in there. And I think it's just because he's like the more attacking of the three outlets. Like Kamara and Davis could just sit there and protect almost, and that allows Aribo to go a little bit and to try and push forward. And at the end of the day, I think something that maybe people don't talk about Joe as much is that he's quite good in the air, as we've seen in the last game at Ibrox in the league, where he obviously got the flick on that resulted in the own goal. So he's another one of those guys that when he's in the team, he's good at picking up the penalty box as well. And you do have to look at Celtic's physicality sometimes, and you maybe have to look at ours. And so putting Joe in there just offers another guy who's good and strong in there, when you're having to defend set pieces.
Yep.
Just moving on to that, set pieces, obviously, recently we've been immensely strong at set pieces against Celtic. Is that something that, when you're playing against Celtic, is more important now than ever? Or do you feel as though maybe we need to do more in open play to be hurting Celtic? I'll come to you first, Ross.
I think we only need to look at Celtic's record this season. Is it like 47% of the goals they concede are directly from set pieces? And then you look at us, who have only conceded 3 goals at Ibrox from any type of play.
Yeah.
So I think set pieces and is it Culshaw we've got who kind of sets up and shapes up for them, and that's we've got somebody dedicated who's going to be watching their videos and coming up with plans on where we can get in. And the last game, obviously, 2 goals, one for a set piece and one from getting the ball wide and getting it down and playing through them. So the last couple of games, I think the last game is, people look back on it as Celtic hammered us and got beat 1-0, but people forget that we had a really tough game the night before, the Thursday night before, and obviously they had prep time for 2 weeks. So I think this situation will take care of itself, is what I'm trying to say. Do you know what I mean? It's a cup game, and the favourites, whoever wins this game is going to be the heavy favourites to win. So if you can't play through that, then you shouldn't be at Rangers.
No, I think that's spot on, mate. I mean, that was something that we obviously spoke about the last time we played Celtic, was that we had obviously played Slavia, and that was obviously like a huge amount of effort had been put into that game. And then we obviously a couple of days later had to roll up at Parkhead and play in the league, whereas they had a fortnight off. Whereas this time both teams have had a whole week to prepare. So it'll be interesting to see if it'll become more of a tactical battle, because clearly both teams should be as fresh as each other. Nobody should be like sort of carrying anything really at this point. Everybody should be fine to play. Wilf, what about yourself, mate? Do you think that set pieces have become like more important to us in these games than ever before?
I think set pieces have become important to us in every game, not just in games against them. We scored an awful lot of goals off of set pieces. I mean, it wasn't that many seasons ago, we looked at it and went, hold on, we've taken about 100 corners and scored no goals. That's the way it was not that long ago before. Gerrard and the coaching team came in, we never ever scored off a corner. I mean, and now you would back us to score off most of them. And obviously, with free kicks, I mean, any free kick from 30 yards in we've got to be a danger for him. We've got Goldson, who's added goals to his game off of set pieces. They've obviously been working hard on them, so they're very, very important. But they're also important to us at the other end, keeping them out. Yeah. Which, as Ross says, I mean, our defensive record, particularly Ibrox, is phenomenal. From all sorts of things. But I think they're quite good on set pieces. I think so. We'll need to be careful on that. But I'd like to see us score from open play rather than from set pieces, because the only thing they're trying to beat us now is we only score against them off set pieces. Yeah, I mean they've got nothing left because Morelos has scored against them. I mean they're lucky if they win a throw in against us these days, so they've got nothing else. So let's shut them up with that one.
Greg, what about yourself, mate? In terms of set pieces, is this something that's impressed you, like more so like this season, and how good we've been like defending those situations and in the attacking side of the pitch?
Oh, 100%. This is the most kind of confident I've seen Rangers with set places. Just again, what Ross and Wilf said, I agree. The kind of calibre of players that we've got now, like Goldson, Hollander, even Balogun, who that can get in there. And as Ross was saying again, with Kilshaw doing all the work in these wee key moments of the game, I think with Rangers before the previous seasons, it was all trying to do the same thing, and it was all very much repetitive. So I think after trying to, you can see the difference that they've really, really worked on that side of the game to add that if they're not breaking a team down and that people are kind of parting the bus, then that's a kind of route that has really helped us. I think also as well, if you're playing these kind of cup games when it is tight and you've missed a few chances, these are the key moments that can win you. It only takes something like that to get you ahead and get you in the front foot. So it is absolutely crucial. And then on the opposite side with defending, there's so many games, say I think there was a game at Pittodrie where it was quite close and Aberdeen had a couple of corners, but I never felt that they were going to score, and that's been the difference as well. You feel like so much like they can score goals, but they can also defend the box brilliantly. And it's not even just the defenders. I mean, how many times have we seen Morelos win headers off the goal line and clearing the danger? So it's worked right through the team, and that's why we're in the position we're in now.
Yeah. I mean, just kind of moving quickly on to something kind of slightly different from what we've been talking about. Obviously, at the moment, like we're the kind of team in the ascendancy. We're winning games. The sort of mentality has kind of changed in these games. I mean, when Gerrard walked in the door, I think most Rangers fans would admit that at times we were probably quite happy only losing 1-0 in some of these games because there was a fear factor that we could really get demolished. Is that now like a thought for the Celtic players now, that when they play against us, they think that they're in for a huge battle and they know that the best 11 players on the pitch for both sides, that we're going to win the game? Is that something like mentally that starts to hit them, Ross?
I think I think you can tell by obviously I post on Twitter quite a lot, and you see the amount of denial, and we're still the best team in the country, and no Rangers players would get in our team, and blah blah blah. And the truth of the matter is, if you stuck a best 11 for the league, you would probably have 9 or 10 Rangers players and maybe 1 or 2 Celtic players. That's the truth as far as I can see it. And people can say I'm biased, or people can say he's a Rangers fan talking rubbish. But the way I see it, our record speaks for itself. Do you know what I mean? Our record speaks for itself. So I think, as you say, we were going through games getting beat 5-1, 5-0, leathered. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely battered by Celtic. And I think now that they have got a fear of us, do you know what I mean? That the fear is, and the fear for me going forward for us is that we fall into the trap they've been in for the last 10 years, where we think that's us the better team now, and we're just entitled to go and win every game. Do you know what I mean? I hope that the players have got the same determination to beat them as the fans have got. Do you know what I mean? Because we've obviously lived through periods of their dominance, and we want our own to start again. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, what about yourself, mate? Do you think there's been like a mental shift in terms of the two teams?
Oh yeah, without any doubt. I mean, you look at social media, and all they're bleating about is the last 2 Old Firm games. They've been a better team, and we've stole a result, we stole a win and a draw. But by our own admission, we haven't kicked our own arse in the last 2 games. So they're saying that they've played really well, but they still haven't beat us. But as Ross says, they're still trying to say that they're the best team. They're the best team in the company. That's just denial. I mean, they're trying so hard to big themselves up. They're protesting too much about the fact they're so good that I think they are running scared. And the other thing that will be in the back of certainly the supporters' minds, I would think, is how many of their players are actually going to care about it. Because half of them are on loan, so they'll be going back to where they came from. 2 or 3 of them know they won't be there anymore. And the ones that are staying, they've got no idea who the manager's going to be. So I don't know how up for it, they're going to get. So the impression I get from what I've seen from that side of the city, which granted isn't a lot, is they're absolutely petrified.
Yeah, I suppose that's one of the things I was going to say to you next, Greg, like sort of just slightly different. See, in terms of this one game, this is obviously really their season, coming up in this one game. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for Rangers in that Celtic are going to throw everything into it? Or is there also that fear factor that if they get beat, the rest of this season is just getting played out and it's absolutely meaningless?
I think there's definitely a bit of both for them. I do believe that, as the guys were saying, I definitely feel as if they can go in and they can do a job and win. I definitely think it'll be a hard game for Rangers. I mean, it will be close. Do you know what I mean? They have still got players that can cause us damage and causes concern, but it could work in their factor. But I think the main thing is, for me, Rangers are, people will say biased or not because I post on Twitter, but I think Rangers are a better team now as well. I mean, the quality of players in the midfield and the work that the coaching team have put in, they've got them to a level where they're actually better than some of the Celtic players on the park. So actually doing the job is then Rangers deserving it, and that's what they've kind of done all season. But I do think that it's the fear in their head that this could be the end of the season. So I think their team will try and take it as if, right, we'll just go into this game kind of trying to win. But I do believe their fans will go, aye, this is the game that we're going to come and we're going to do and we're going to dictate because this is what we need to do, kind of thing. And we're still the best team. But I think on a whole, Rangers have been a better team, and I do think they'll come in to win this game.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that you take from this particular game is when John Kennedy comes out and obviously says that Celtic are still the best team, for me that was as much a thing for all of his players, because he's trying to tell his players that he still thinks that they're the best team in the country. But I think the simple reality is when you look at the last 4 games that we've played against them, that's just not the case. So like, whether that's him trying to kind of shift the energy into his players and say, look, we need to show up for this game. We need to show that we're the best team in the country. But the reality is, I still feel when we're at home, the fact we've only conceded the 3 goals, the fact we've been so powerful at home this season, I just think that we're too strong all over the pitch. I think like the only players that slightly concern me, to be honest, is probably like Edouard and Turnbull. I think when you look at Celtic defensively, there's definitely fragilities there. The 2 full-backs you can get at them. The fact they're having to play a young centre-half and Stephen Welsh in there, even though they've got like an Irish international captain who can't even get into the starting 11, that shows you the problems that they've got. So like from my point of view, I think the players just go in and do what they've done all season, and they just go out and they perform and they find a way to win. And that's going to be like my next question to you guys. Is it now, when you look at Rangers, that we just find ways of getting something out of games, and come Sunday there's just a general expectation now that we're going to win the game, Ross?
I say this to my dad all the time. See, when you used to be watching Celtic and they were maybe 1-0 down with 8 minutes to go, I would say to my dad, they'll end up scoring 2 and they would score winners in the 94th minute, 97th minute. There was only about 2 minutes played and they scored in 95. And they had that kind of aura about them where they were always going to get a result. No, and it's based mainly on the fact that we don't concede goals. If we score 2 goals in a game, I feel as if we're going to win it. Do you know what I mean? We've got that belief in the team, and we're that strong at both ends of the park that I just think we are. If we score, there's a good chance we're going to win the game because we don't concede goals.
Wolf, what about yourself?
Yeah, that's 100%. That's 100% right. I mean, I fully believe we've got better players than them in every position all around the park. But one thing that I don't think anybody can dispute is we've got a better team spirit than them. We fight for each other. If they go and get tough, the boys will just will back each other up and they'll fight for each other. I don't get the impression that's what it's like at the other end of the city. I think they're more or less a team of individuals. They're not particularly a team. You've got guys like Edouard, who's only interested in where he's going. As I said earlier, he's going to be leaving. Only interested in himself and playing well for himself. to try and kind of get himself a better move. Whereas we've got a team of players that play as a team of players, and if one drops out, one comes in, and you don't really notice a mark difference because they all play this. They know the system to play, and they play for each other.
Yeah, Greg, what about yourself, mate? Do you feel the same way as Ross and Wilf?
I totally agree. I said before, I just think we've got the level of players now that they're better, and we should have the expectation that we're going to do that because of the way we have played this season, the way we start games. Like I feel if we hit Celtic early on, and as Ross says, get a goal or two, then I can't see any way back for them. I think as well, it's just about the man management. I mean, that's what Gerrard and that's created in the team as well. As Wilf was saying, that the team spirit in the groups of going does get tough. The players have been able to kind of emotionally kind of manage certain areas of the game and still believe that they can get something from it. So if we do go 1-down in Sunday, I don't think the heads will totally go down. I mean, it'll be a bit of a blow, but the players will continue to keep going because they're believing in their potential. I mean, they're good enough now, and it's really shown through the whole team that it's not maybe just one player that scores, it's the whole team that can provide what Rangers are needing. But
sorry, Willie, I think Greg's spot on there.
Yeah.
If we go 1-down, our heads won't drop. But I think if they go 1-down, if we score, I think they could collapse.
Right.
You know, because they're so fragile, or they seem to be so fragile, and they know that their season hinges on Sunday. You know, if the worst happens, we get knocked out on Sunday, we've still had a great season because anything other than the championship's a bonus. Their season falls apart on Sunday. If we score, I can see them absolutely collapsing.
Yeah, well, I think that's an interesting thing, and it's something that like this season, whenever they have fallen behind, they've not exactly reacted that well to it that often. You know, and that's the one thing that maybe, as we kind of spoke about in the last 5-10 minutes, it's like the mentality shift has been big this season, and you wonder, like obviously Gerrard had to kind of rebuild that mentality in our team. You know, like it's happened basically over the last 3 years. We've gradually, you know, managed to get better quality players. We've obviously managed to beat them home and away. And then this season, we've took it to the next level in terms of our consistency in winning games. And I think that's something as a group, they just never look like, even when, as Greg said, when you go 1-0 down, you still don't really have a fear. Like you still feel as though we'll find a way to get a point or win all three. And I think that's a big change for us. And come Sunday, yet again, I think if we can get that early goal, it definitely shifts a massive amount of momentum towards us. And like the more Celtic open up, as far as I'm concerned, the more dangerous we'll become. Because if they want to press high up the pitch, we'll counter-attack. If they want to sit in and let us come at them, we're quite happy to do that as well now.